Good morning. Today we are especially blessed with the presence of Revered Swami Shantatmananda Maharaj, who is the Secretary of the Ramakrishna Mission in New Delhi. Revered Maharaj spent a lot of time in Belur Math, more than 30 years, and he himself was blessed by contact with many of the great monks of the order. But also, because of his long presence there, just about every monk of the order knows him. We all know him as Jai Shankar Maharaj. I remember when I joined as a young novice, a brahmachari. So he was there in Belur Math. I always found him very wise, loving, and above all, your true well-wisher. So a wonderful guide and a very good advisor, not only to the great Swamis of the order, but also to all us juniors who would go to him for help and support. Revered Maharaj, then after Belur Math, in Belur Math, let me mention that he was in charge of all the finances of the entire order, not just Belur Math itself, but so he was basically the money man. In that way, New York will suit Maharaj, Wall Street and everything. After that, Revered Maharaj took charge of our very prestigious center in New Delhi. And the work that he has done there is nothing short of tremendous. Especially, I would like to mention the work he has done in value education, a program designed to teach the students in schools and colleges to build up their character along the lines of the teachings given by Swami Vivekananda. Maharaj was just telling me the program has expanded so much. They have provided this training to more than 4,000 schools, not only in the Delhi area, capital area, but across the whole country, across India, even reached out to other countries like Nepal. So that's a tremendous achievement, and it's an ongoing project. He will take it up to 5,000 schools over the next few years. Maharaj also has organized and takes part in many national and international interfaith events, including a major World Peace Conference which he organized, which was inaugurated by His Holiness the Dalai Lama a few years ago. All this you can find on the net. I'll tell you something you cannot find on the net. I love libraries. So whenever I used to go to the Ramakrishna Mission ashram in New Delhi, I would always make a beeline for the library there. And I noticed, to my sadness, that over the years, as times change, people started, fewer and fewer people go to the libraries. It's an online age now. And I was thinking it's such a waste of such a wonderful library if people don't come. Then Maharaj took charge, and the next time I went there, what a change. The library was packed. There was only standing room only. There was no place to sit. And I asked, how did this happen? And they said it's all because of Maharaj, how he attracted the students, the university students, to come and study in the library there. So now it's packed, and they have had to expand. They are continuously running out of seating capacity. Maharaj has spoken in numerous occasions and numerous forums, not only in India, but across the world. He has visited the United States, among other countries, a number of times. And he is on one such tour. We are very glad. He wanted to come to this center because he has a special love for this center, being the first center started by Swami Vivekananda in the West, and also because of, I think, Swami Tathagatanandaji, I think. So he was here a few years ago, towards the end of Swami Tathagatanji's time here. That's why he wanted to come here, but I said, you're coming on a Sunday, and we caught hold of him that you have to give a talk here. He actually is going to give a talk on another place in Manhattan. And just for us, he postponed that talk by half an hour. He will give the talk here now. He will speak on the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. But then he has to rush to the next talk. So we are very grateful to him for coming here and agreeing to address the devotees here. Maharaj.
Om Stapakaya cha dharmasya sarva dharma swarupine Avatara Varishtaya Ramakrishnaya Te Namaha Jananim Sharadam Devim Ramakrishnam Jagadgurum Padapadme Tayo Sritva Pranamami Muhurmuhu Namasri Yatirajaya Vivekananda Surya Satchit Sukha Swarupaya Swamine Tapaharine. My very, very dear Swami Sarvapriyananda ji, the assembled devotees of this center and also some of the board members. First of all, I feel so happy to be here because, spiritual life largely, depends upon the associations. So when you think of the center, you're reminded of Swami Vijay. And it is the first Vedanta center in the West he started. And a galaxy of such great Swamis have been the heads of center here. And right now, we have another star in the making, if he's not already one, Swami Sarvapriyananda. In fact, I was a little hesitant to speak because his talks are all over the YouTube and everywhere else. But in the order, many of us speak for various reasons under various contexts. Today, in this cold morning, in spite of the threat of a flash floods, so many of you are here. I take it that all of you are very sincere sadhakas or spiritual seekers. So I think in that context, I'll be able to connect with you and talk to you. So that way I'm very happy. Because this Gospel of Ramakrishna is an extraordinary text, a very great scripture. And probably, it gives us a tremendous sense of spiritual uplift. It shows us the path to spiritual redemption, spiritual goal. To talk about the gospel, to read it, and to really enjoy it, and to derive the spiritual benefit from it, one need not be a great scholar at all. I can tell you, of the two, both Latu Maharaj and Swami Vivekananda, as Narendranath and Latu, they came to Sri Ramakrishna. Latu could grasp and come closer to Sri Ramakrishna much quicker than Narendranath. Of course, ultimately, Naren went and scaled great heights. That's a different story. But it was so easy for Latu to become very close, very dear to Sri Ramakrishna and derive all the spiritual benefit. That was enough for his life. But Naren's mission was much greater. He had to cater to a huge crowd, to the entire humanity, so to say. But all of us can be small little Latu Maharajas in our own way and derive that kind of a benefit from this gospel. So I think each one of us is eminently qualified to read, to talk about, and to get the best out of the gospel. In fact, since I am not so well grounded in scriptures like Sarvapriyananda, my main staple food is the gospel. Largely, I speak on the gospel in many places because Maharaj didn't tell that other story. I was 30 years in Belur Math. For the 25 years, I never stirred out of it. I was busy doing audit, taxation, managing the finances, and so on. So in the last 5 years, I was virtually pushed out by one of my fellow monks who is also a great mentor of Sarvapriyananda, Swami Atmapriyananda, who is the Vice Chancellor of the Vivekananda University. He said, no, you have to go and speak. So in the last 5 years, I used to give 2 talks a month in Bengali. And suddenly they uprooted me from Belur Math and posted me to Delhi. Now we have to do something like 20 to 25 programs per month. You can understand how difficult it is. So I always take shelter at the feet of Sri Ramakrishna through the gospel. And that is how I'm surviving in Delhi. I have let out a great secret to you today. So you see, as sadhakas, this book is extraordinary for all of us. It has tremendous spiritual value for each one of us. And it's impossible to exhaust in a talk, not even in a number of times reading the text, its spiritual dimension. The more you read, the more you dwell deeper into it, you will find tremendous depth and greater meaning for your own spiritual life. In fact, it starts with that beautiful Mangalacharya. It was taken from the Bhagavad Purana itself. Tava kathamrutam tapta jivanam kavibhiriditam kalmashapaham Sravana Mangalam Srimadatadam Bhavigranandiye Bhurida Janaha. It talks about, extols the virtues of Kathamrita, is the nectar, and for those who have been scorched, burnt by the fire of samsara, it's a great, kind of a soothing balm like, and then, great kavis and munis have spoken about it, sung its praises. And then, it can remove all the sins or defects just in a trice. And then the very hearing of it is so auspicious. And then it being associated with it being really, it brings a wealth of so many other things. And finally, then the question, why in large number people are not taking to it? Then there gives the finally, only if you are, blessed through your extraordinary punya karmas or meritorious acts in previous birth, then only you will develop a taste towards it. So those of you who have come here, who are attracted to it, know for certain that we have already taken the first step towards our spiritual destiny by really seeking this solace or solution from the Kathamrita. Just imagine the way it was created, the way it came about. Every little thing connected with Kathamrita is so important, so extraordinary. The compiler, Master Mahasay, he was so tormented by his family circumstances, he found it impossible to continue in the house because of the constant fight between his mother and his wife and so on. He had decided to commit suicide. So, along with his wife, of course, he didn't declare his intention to her. Together they came. He had come to his nephew's house in a place called Baranagar, which is quite close to Dakshineswar. Just after staying a couple of days or so, one day the nephew told him that let us go and see a few holy places nearby. So together they left. They practically roamed about the whole day. And towards the evening, his nephew says, there's a temple garden. There is a Paramahamsa, a sadhu lives there. Would you like to go and see? See, 99 out of 100 would have said, enough of all that. I have seen enough and more. Let us go back. First of all, no, he was not interested in anything. He had decided to put an end to his life. And he had been roaming about right from morning. So at the end of the day, more likely than not, he would have said, let us go back. But somehow he agreed. He said yes. And when they came to Dakshineswar, they did not go anywhere else. They landed straight in front of his room, the room where Sri Ramakrishna was staying. See the coincidence. They could have gone elsewhere and seen a little and perhaps not even visited Sri Ramakrishna and left Dakshineswar itself. It could have happened because it's such a huge premises, such a huge campus. They could have seen some other places, some Kali temple, darshan, and they would have left also. But they didn't go anywhere. They came straight to his room. Standing outside, when Master Mahasay peeped inside, he was stunned by what he saw. He says, I felt as if Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was singing kirtans in the company of his disciples. So, you can imagine, when your mind is really ripe, when it's prepared, how it understands, how it draws inferences. There were many who used to come to Sri Ramakrishna's place. Maybe some, they would have come with their friends. That friend would have been deeply interested in meeting Sri Ramakrishna, talking to him and all that. And he would be listening because it was such a rare privilege. When I would come again, I don't know, let me make the best out of this visit. So he would be eagerly listening and just, drinking that nectar of words from Sri Ramakrishna's mouth. And this friend would nudge him. When are we going? When are we going? And finding no response, he would say, I'll go and sit in the boat, you come. See, that kind of, you can't even tolerate that kind of an ambience. Unless you are prepared to some extent, It will be impossible for you to sit even in a place where such things are discussed. But here is a person who was so prepared. The moment he heard Sri Ramakrishna singing, he felt as if Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was singing kirtans in the company of his devotees. In fact, of course, later on, he felt not only that much, even much more, because Sri Ramakrishna had such a beautiful voice, such a sweet voice. And when he would sing kirtans and dance, it was a sight for gods. He would go into ecstasy. Simply, it will be rapturous. And everybody would participate. That was something, a sight for gods. There is a small connection here also, because Sri Ramakrishna identified most of those who became close to him as to what was their background. And in the case of Master Musha, he says, I have seen him in the crowd of the devotees singing and dancing in the company of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. When he saw Sri Ramakrishna, something deep within was stirred. And then, the next statement, it was as if Sukadeva was expounding the Bhagavata Purana. Imagine. See, how the mind goes deeper and deeper and unearths extraordinary connections. All of you know, still I would briefly repeat what happened. That Raja by name Parikshit, he had gone on a hunting spree. After spending the whole day, he was so tired, he had come to the ashram of a rishi for water, and the rishi was deeply absorbed in meditation. Momentarily, he lost the balance of his mind. When he asked, there was no response, because the rishi was not in this world, so he didn't respond. And the Raja, he got offended, and he took a dead serpent and put it around the neck of the rishi as a garland and left. After some time, the Rishi Kumara came, the son of that rishi, and he saw, who has done this to my father? Immediately he let out a curse. The man who did it, within 7 days, he would die of serpent bite. And the rishi opened his eyes. He was so sad. Do you know who did it? He's our own Raja Parikshit. No, he had that Dirgha Darshan, Dishti. You could see in his meditation that this was the person who had done it. He knew he was an extraordinary king, such a benevolent king, such a nice person. He knew it was a momentary lapse of his discrimination, the idea to understand the right and wrong. He did not feel offended at all. But then the Rishi Kumara was a young person. He was offended. My father was dishonored like this. So go immediately. Go and tell him what you have done. He went. By that time he saw, because Parikshit was a sadhaka, he was a great person. He felt so remorseful. What have I done today? What have I done today? I had done this to a great rishi. He was so remorseful. And when the Rishi Kumara came and told him, this is a curse I have pronounced, he did not feel hurt or angry at all. He was extremely happy. He said, you have done the right thing. You have done the right thing. See, that's why, when we are in the right frame of mind, how do we understand life? Difficulties, problems, sorrows, sufferings come to all of us in our life. How do we understand them? Depending upon our state of life, our state of mind. Here was a Raja who was ruling such a kingdom, and he said, you have done the right thing. See how he took it. Had it not happened, maybe another 10 years, 15 years I have ruled this kingdom. So what? What I would have achieved? You have come and reminded me, this is the time for me to hand over and think about the higher dimensions of life. So he took it as a blessing in disguise, immediately handed over the kingdom to his son, and very happily and with a really contemplative mind, left for the banks of the Ganges. He had come there because he was a Raja. He had called all the great learned men, rishis and munis of the place, of the kingdom, and he was asking so passionately, with such intense longing, vyakulata, what am I to do? I have just 7 days to live. Tell me the way to redemption. I have just 7 days. He knew that the Rishi Kumars words would definitely prove to be true and he would certainly die. He was not afraid of death. He knew one day, Jata sihi dhruva mrityuhu dhruvam janma mrityusya. So he knew one day or other he would have to certainly die. But he really wanted to know, how am I going to spend these 7 days so that I find a solution to the problem of life and death itself? They were all learned. They were all great tapasvis themselves. But they didn't have an answer. Right at that time, finally, this Sukadeva entered. They all fell at his feet, prayed. You answer the Raja's question. And when he saw Parikshit, Sukadeva understood, here is the right recipient. Ripe mind, right frame of mind, ready for that redemption, mukti, the ultimate goal of life. He expounded the Bhagavata in 7 days. Parikshit was no doubt bitten by a serpent. He cut a small fruit. It was a small insect, a worm. It slowly became bigger and bigger and bigger. Otherwise, how he could? He was surrounded by water. There's no way it could come. Then, it assumed a huge figure and then he was bitten. He died. But by then, he had gone beyond death. In those 7 days, hearing it from Sukadeva himself, he had completely transcended the boundaries of birth and death and he had gone beyond death. So, Master Mahasaya feels that Sukadeva is expounding Bhagavata. That means he is giving me the solution to life and death. How to go beyond this samsara sagara. So, actually in India, I don't know whether there is in this country. In India, these Bhagavad Saptas are held very frequently in many places. But the real intent is, you listen for 7 days. In 7 days, you are supposed to get mukti or moksha. I don't know if they know, probably they won't organize. If they know the real intent. But that's it is. So, seeing him, immediately, there was such a churning in his mind. And all thought of putting an end to life, etc., completely vanished from his mind. Just one meeting, without exchanging a word, that is the power of, such great, extraordinary spiritual minds. He did not even talk to him. Just saw him for a few minutes, standing outside the room. This was the effect. He decided, I will go around see the garden a bit, and come back to his room. And he came back, the next 2-3 meetings, it was real tough, initiation, learning, so to say. First, he asked the maid, Brinde, does he read books and all that? Books? Everything is in his mouth. Another great shock, because Master Mahasaya was supposed to be a very learned person. He was an headmaster of a school. He was, in fact, very good in his academics. He even got a chance to go to England, but because he couldn't afford it, he didn't make it. Otherwise, he would have even gone abroad. He always thought that he was a very learned person. It was true in a worldly sense, in a normal sense of the term. But he says, here is a person who is full of wisdom, but he says he never reads books. A great shock. Every first 2-3 meetings, everything was a big shock for Master Mahasaya. And he was hammered right, left and center by Sri Ramakrishna. He really wanted to mold him in the beginning itself. He didn't want to give him a long rope. The beginning itself, he wanted to set his course once and for all. And he really pounded and pulverized him, so to say. He said, again, about the idea of image worship. And he was shocked when Sri Ramakrishna asked him, do you believe in God with form or without form? How is it he's asking both? How both alternatives can be okay? Either you say with form or you say without form. He's saying as if both are equally good. Then Sri Ramakrishna tell him, is with form, without form is much more. And then, he goes to say that, but people, when they worship the images, they should be told that they are not to worship, the mud or stone, but and Sri Ramakrishna comes down heavily. Oh, this is the business of these Calcutta people, always trying to impart knowledge to others. You take care of yourself. Who are you to teach others? Like that, he argued, and every argument he had to receive a hammering by a thunderbolt or whatever it is, and then he completely gave up the idea of arguing itself. I will never again argue with this man. Because whatever he says is thrashed immediately. Everything, even he asked him, "Oh, Ramlal, he's married." And he felt so ashamed. No, is it a sin to be married? "Oh, Ramlal, he has children too." And, but he was so compassionate. Immediately he came and he assured him, "No, you are signs of a spiritual aspirant." He was always, while he was quick to point out where all Master Mahasaya really lacked or what were his shortfalls or difficulties, at every moment he would come back and assure him, "No, you don't have to worry. No, you don't have to worry. There is a way out. There is a redemption for you." Even that day itself he assured him, "I see good signs in you." That is how he reassured him. So it went on and on. He was so specially chosen because, you see, in fact, a sannyasin disciple of Sri Ramakrishna, Master Mahasaya would come only on holidays. Only because when there is a school holiday he would come, not on other days. But someone else used to come more frequently perhaps, and even stay for some days together. He was Tarak, who later on became the president of the order. He was called Mahapurusha Maharaj because of his extraordinary tapasya. He was Swami Shivananda. He was trying to take down notes, but Sri Ramakrishna clearly told him, "This is not for you." Whereas when Master Mahasaya would note down something, he would encourage him. He would repeat some of those things quite a few times. You'll be amazed if you see that book, the very construct is very unique and extraordinary. First of all, the original 5 volumes, if we go through them, there is no chronology in that. Dates are here and there. Every volume perhaps contains every year. It's about almost some 4 years, 1882 and up to 1886 and so on. But almost in all volumes you will find all years. There is no chronology. There is no topic wise. It's not a normal book written in a normal fashion. It's a pure, clear revelation of God himself, so to say. So, he would repeat. You will find there are many repetitions of some of the great examples, stories. And then, of course, in many places you will find shades of difference in the meaning and interpretation which Sri Ramakrishna gives. But, largely there are a lot of repetitions. Perhaps Sri Ramakrishna wanted him to really get the core, really wanted Master Mahasaya to get to the bottom of it and understand it without any mistake. So for his sake or whatever it is, there are repetitions. Then you say, "What did I say the other day?" Master Mahasaya would repeat. He would say, No, not this way. Sometimes, "No, you have caught it correctly." So at every place it was really corrected by Sri Ramakrishna. Not only that, later on, I believe that when Master Mahasaya completed the 5th volume, it was perhaps a couple of years before he himself gave up his body, something like 1932 or so, some 46 years after Sri Ramakrishna's Mahasamadhi. Imagine someone writing, conversations, recorded conversations, some 5 decades after the person had left the world. Still, if you read the Kathamrita, of course, those days the videography was not there. It was as if they were all been videographed. Who are all present? Who laughed? Whose words were liked by Sri Ramakrishna? Which were appreciated by Sri Ramakrishna? When he became irritated, when he laughed, when he scolded. Everything is, such minute detail. It appears sometimes Sri Ramakrishna, when he was constructing the book, he would appear and say, No, what you've written is not correct. You change it like that. It was, it was sheer result of deep contemplation for days, months, years. Because, later on, one of our Swamis could access a few of those diaries. Just some notings here and there, not even shorthand. A few words here and there. No one could make out anything after those just words. But every page, every day's incident, Master Mahasaya would sit, meditate, and then come out. See, it had the complete seal of approval of no less than the Holy Mother herself. She clearly said, these are all the words of the Master only. And Swami Vivekananda himself, he put his seal of authority saying that it's an excellent work by Master Mahasay. He really appreciated how he had concealed himself. Because most of the places is Master Mahasay himself, but in various ways he would address the issue, express it, saying that Master Mahasay, then some visitor, a guest, and this and that. In so many ways, concealing himself. Very little is revealed of his own personality, but most of the important questions, etc., were raised by him. So, that way, this book has an extraordinary significance, meaning. And the more and more you read it, you will find that you are able to get more and more out of it. This one, Sri Ramakrishna himself would say that if you want to kill others, you need a lot of weapons and all that. Just to kill yourself, a small blade is enough. In the same way, for our own individual spiritual redemption, this book is more than enough. But of course, if you want to really enlighten others, of course, that's a different thing. You may have to do many other things. You see, that way, every little incident there, the first time you read it, the second time, third time, fourth time, every time you read it, you get little nuances, little more deeper understanding of what Sri Ramakrishna wanted to say. And moreover, it would depend more and more upon your own state of mind. Quite often, you would find extraordinary solutions emerging out of that book for your own life. It has happened to many that way. See, I remember I read somewhere, Francis of Assisi, he came out of this church with a few other friends. They were very young people. They were kind of revolutionaries. No one gave them any quarters when they started that new monastery. They were struggling very hard. They were really, they had embraced the house of poverty, purity, and obedience. So when they had such problems, when they could find no solution, they would come back to the search from where they emerged first, sit and pray, bring down that huge copy of Bible, close their eyes and open a page, and they would find the solution. Probably in a small way we can test, this gospel would be like that to us. It has such extraordinary merit. The more and more you read it, you will find that it has more and more to offer. So, that way, and the incidents are all very simple, just taken from daily life, very commonplace incidents, but really extraordinary. They drive deep into your heart a special meaning. I would discuss a couple of incidents, couple of 2 or 3 incidents from there. See, Sri Ramakrishna says how to live in this world. He says, you live like a maid in a rich man's house. She takes care of the children. She says they are my Hari, my Rama and all that. She pours her love and affection. But she knows in her heart of hearts, my own real people are my children back home in my village. She has no delusion about that. Sri Ramakrishna says, in the same way, you live in this world, perform all your duties, but remember that your own is God. Now, this is very simple. It's the language is not at all difficult. But then if you go deeper, I'm sure there will be many shades of meaning. I'm just going to give you one, what struck me. Why are we not able to translate it into action? Then life becomes, your life's problems are solved. Now if you can do it, you live like a maid of a rich man's house in this world, do all your duties, but know in your heart of hearts, God is your own, you are real, and you are dear and near one, and you live happily. But why are we not able to do it? I found that the lady working in the rich man's house, she pours her love and affection. There is no duplicity or hypocrisy in her behavior. She really loves those children. Because it happens, many times when those children grow up, They remember much more these maids rather than even their own parents. They become so close to them. But yet, this lady knows that this relationship is absolutely transitory. This can come crumbling down any moment. In spite of all the love and affection she might pour on the children, supposing she were to commit some mistake, in a moment's notice, she would have to leave the house. So the entire relationship is going to come crumbling down. She cannot say, I love my Rama and Hari so much, I won't go out of this house. They would call the police. So, although she pours her love, she participates completely, fully, without any sense of deceit or, duplicity, yet the unreality or the impermanence of this relationship is not lost on her. But in our case, the difficulty is this relationship is complete, permanent, stuck with Fevicol or whatever it is. That is how we are not able to detach. See, whatever, all our, relationships, our cars, our bank balances, our houses, our properties, whatever we own or whatever it is, they are all so real to us. The impermanence or unreality of this participation or these relationships never ever strikes us. So this is the major difference between that example and between us on one side. The lady, in spite of all her sincerity in her job, in her vocation, she knows deep in her heart that this relationship is absolutely impermanent and can come crashing down any moment. So there is always a sense of awareness of this impermanency, and hence always there is a sense of detachment in a relationship. So that is a saving factor. Now go to the other side. Sri Ramakrishna says, you take God to be your real and dear, and then there's no problem. Now again, as far as this lady is concerned, her relationship with those children back home, no one need come and tell her or, make her understand. No one need teach her. Absolutely clear to her. It's spontaneous, undeniable. Those children are my own, my really dear and near ones. So there is no confusion or there is no wrong understanding about that relationship. In our case, our relationship with God, either it does not exist at all or it is so flimsy and so unstable, we are not able to translate this into that kind of a relationship there. So quite often it is words, we have heard something, we come to some temple, we participate, some ritual, something, and in difficulties we go and pray more for worldly reasons and so on. But then, probably, if you have to really get the best out of this example of Sri Ramakrishna, both sides will have to work. One about the impermanence of our worldly functioning attachments, our duties and responsibilities, our participation. Both are extremely important. Sri somewhere says, if you go towards the west, automatically you are receding away the other side. The other side automatically goes away from you. If you go towards one direction, the other direction automatically recedes from you. In the same way, if you understand, that is one thing all of us should really work upon. The impermanency of our participation, our worldly engagements, our relationships, whatever we attach so much value to, think as so important, this one thing. On the other hand, what is our relationship with our own God, our own ideal, our own Ishta, what we seek as ultimate? If there is an element of, reality in that, then this example would be extraordinary for us, and that is how we would probably make use of it. Now one more example, probably I think I'm just reaching the end of my time limit. Now Sri Ramakrishna says, your heart, at core, you are like a needle and God is like a magnet. There is some incrustation or accumulation of dirt or something, and once it's washed away, because of that it's not getting attracted to this magnet of God. Once it is washed away, it would get attracted very easily. And what is the solvent he prescribes, he says, your own tears from within. Your own tears, when you pray to God with deep longing, with tears in your eyes, that would wash away the accumulated dirt and dust, and that is how you would get attracted to God. Again, a very extraordinary example. You see, at every stage, how Sri Ramakrishna assures you. First of all, he says that you are basically of a material which is capable of being attracted to God, and thereby your basic eligibility, your basic nature is assured by Sri Ramakrishna. You are not plastic or glass or something which would never get attracted to magnet. Basically, you are made of that material which is capable of being attracted to God. That means you are essentially, of course, Swamiji and others put it in so many languages like being potentially divine and so on. Sri Ramakrishna says, you are of that nature. So never ever feel that you are nothing, you are nobody, you are hopeless, you have done so much sins and this and that. No. With all that, you essentially retain your intrinsic nature of getting attracted towards God. It's an enormous, extraordinary assurance from Sri Ramakrishna to all of us, that all of us qualify to be spiritual aspirants in that sense. That's the first assurance which Sri Ramakrishna gives through this example. And then, what is the nature of those accumulations which Sri Ramakrishna says? You might think that you have done so many things. This, that, this sin, that sin. So much of negativity in me. But Sri Ramakrishna says, they are all dirt and accumulation which are capable of being washed away, being dissolved by a simple solvent of water. It's not a coating of mercury or something else which will never get dissolved. Another assurance, whatever you might have committed, whatever you might think of your past or whatever it is, all those accumulations are of a nature of a very simple water-soluble dirt and such things, so that very easily you can dissolve them and become fit for being attracted towards God. And then, the third assurance he says, you don't have to seek for a solvent elsewhere. It's within you. You don't have to strive hard, struggle, where would I get, how to get it. No, it's within you. Just start your journey. Start your deep prayer, dependence on Sri Ramakrishna. Do it. And then, the very tears from within, they would wash those dirt and accumulations, and you become fit for being attracted towards God. And this is how your spiritual redemption would start. You see, a very apparently very simple example, but so full of meaning. If you like that, there are so many examples. If you go through each and every example, you will find that each and every example is extremely important, extraordinary. And ultimately you must understand every example, how relevant it is to me. See, one of our great editor Swamis used to write a series of articles in one of our magazines called Vedanta Kesari, First Meetings with Sri Ramakrishna, where some of those great people, how they met him for the first time, and it's a beautiful series of articles. There's a footnote he wrote while reading this. We might also wonder, when is my first meeting with Sri Ramakrishna going to happen? Like that, each example, if you take it as a personal spiritual advice, you will understand it much more deeply, much more significantly, and it will definitely work on our spiritual life. Finally, I would just close this talk with a real life incident. It's very extremely important. A young couple, at the time of marriage, the bride was gifted a copy of this Gospel of Ramakrishna. She got so angry and irritated. What are they giving? So just she put it in a shelf in a room and just never even cared to look at it. Of course, those times were better. It took 3-4 months for marriages to break. Now it happens in a week's time probably. So within 3 months, it was all over. It was all over. They say all over bar shouting. It was all over. And then, she had decided to commit suicide. Life had no meaning for her any longer. After food, she had kind of met everyone without telling what she was going to do. She closed the doors of her room and she was just sitting on her bed. Just few hours of her life were left. Suddenly her eyes fell on the copy of Gospel which was gathering dust. Most unwelcome gift for her marriage. She took it, started reading, read the whole night. She couldn't keep the book down, and her life was changed forever, totally from that day. Thank you. So, questions? They ask questions. Is it the custom here? I don't know.
We have a full question session, but do you have time?
Few minutes, doesn't matter.
Yes.
See, Swamiji, he used to go with the Western disciples, He would walk at his own leisurely pace, and, the train would steam in. They were rushing the others, but Swamiji would go slowly and he would miss the train. Oh, Swami, you have to rush. Don't worry, madam, the show would not start unless I go there. So the next place, they may wait a few minutes for me. I would rather... Anyway, if you have someone, any question, if you have, otherwise you don't have to really construct and ask. Yeah.
Maharaj, I read that statement about tears, but the tears won't come.
No, actually, yes, that is because, many of us, of course, those from Christian background, perhaps it is slightly easier because, prayer is an integral part of sadhana and Christianity. So perhaps for those with Christian backgrounds, it's even easier. You see, the point is, when you start, some or other, you keep doing it. Initially, it may not be like that. But as you go, as you practice diligently, circumstances would be so constructed you would have to weep. Know it for certain. See, quite often, the problem is, please don't misunderstand me. The more and more you advance in spiritual life, you find that your worldly affairs are going topsy-turvy. In many cases. And quite often we understand difficulties, tragedies so differently. But Holy Mother somewhere says, my son, remember that sorrow is God's gift. That is what would move you to tears. Something for which you are unable to find an answer. You have tried everywhere. Then finally you turn to Sri Ramakrishna. Then tears would come. We can only wait and pray. Nothing can be taken for granted in spiritual life. But then, if you really know that I have to weep to go forward, that also Sri Ramakrishna would arrange certainly. But somewhere we must make a beginning, start the journey. Yes?
I think there is no word, perfect word, we could challenge wisdom of Ramakrishna, that Katamrito, and those things we never can find a word to challenge those wisdoms. It's not possible.
Challenges. What is
You can't challenge.
Sarvapriyananda, what she is doing?
The words is so perfect,
Yeah.
and there is no word we can find to make a thing that we can challenge. It is impossible. Being a human being.
It's not necessary, You challenge yourself. You don't have to challenge the gospel. More and more you challenge yourself, your own belief, our own predilections, our own preconceived ideas, our own attachments. See, actually, really, in the spiritual life, the challenge is actually to ourselves. We have to challenge ourselves. Any text, any book, anything is enough. Not exactly this is the only solution. Once you take a Godward journey, the challenge is actually inward. You have to challenge yourself. So we don't have to challenge what is given in the book. When you relate it to your life, you will find that there are so many things to be challenged in you, and that is how you would go forward.
I will take this. Oh, there's a question?
Yeah.
I'll take this opportunity to, though it is not on this particular topic, but Maharaj, you came across so many of the great Swamis in Belur Math, Swami Budeshanji and others. Anything that comes to your mind, one or two inspiring stories, your personal experience?
Actually, this is frankly speaking, at the time when I was very close to them, it takes a long time into get, even to get some kind of a stability in spiritual life. I was, too young, completely caught in that hugeness of Belur Math. I had access to Vireshwaranji. Every day I used to go to him. What a fool I was. I did not really ask him that kind of serious questions at all. But one thing I knew, it was a very small incident, but how he was so particular about the worship of Sri Ramakrishna, anything connected with temple. What happened, soon after my joining the monastery, I'm from down south, so my parents, my mother, etc., she was a devotee, no doubt, but still she would shed tears. She came to meet Maharaj, and she was actually initiated by Maharaj. She told him that she would send a sari for Holy Mother's birthday. And she did send one. It was a very beautiful Mysore silk sari. Costly. We were from a middle class family, it was definitely the best she could buy. But every year on Holy Mother's birthday, for a number of years, the mother's picture used to be decorated by a sari which was gifted by one Rashida Ben, a Muslim lady from Rajkot, who was a great devotee of Sri Krishna, Thakur and Mother. She was a very wealthy lady, very costly sari. Every year, that was a custom. That sari would come to Bharat Maharaj. So by the time my mother had sent, so what to do? So I was asked to carry that, my sari. I know you have to be very careful. You can't keep it down. You have to like that. After Ganges, sprinkling of Ganges water, I carried that sari to Bharat Maharaj. Bharat Maharaj would see. In the meantime, they would have talked over phone. Then he would come back. 3-4 times I had to go back and forth. Finally, Maharaj solved it. In the morning, they decorated the mother with this sari. And in the evening, after or before Aarti, they decorated the mother with the other sari. It's never changed in the same day twice. So, a very small thing, but he was so careful about the sentiments. When somebody with so much devotion had sent it to mother, how it is to be honored. They could have easily settled one, saying that no, that will be done next year. Every year she's doing it, why it should be done. Or she would have said, why we did not know it is being done every year. This will be put on tomorrow. But Maharaj, he was the president of the order. He could have simply sent a word, this is to be done. But he would not give any order. He would send it to Bharat Maharaj, talk to him. After, about half an hour of repeated discussions over phone, finally they settled that mother would be decorated with both the saris. So it's a great, revelation.
Swamiji, a few words on Swami, your friendship with Swami Tathagathananda.
Oh, actually, Tathagathananda, I have met him a few times, but, I was only, all admiration for him, that's all. Because, I saw here is a person who was virtually living the life of a wandering monk of Uttarakashi or the Himalayas right in the city of New York. That's what I found. Absolutely, New York had not made the least dent on his personality. Nothing had touched him at all. He was the same old, what would you say, maverick sadhu of the Uttarakhand or the Himalayan type. And I remember, I think all of you, most of you must have received that blows on your back sometime or other. But people, how they would love his blows, that's the beauty. And his love for Holy Mother. Very recently I had gone to Jairambati. That Swami told how much money he had sent. Something like probably some 4 million or so he had sent to Jairambati. This center is really, I know you are not very financially great. His love for Holy Mother. He would write to that Swami, why? You are doing it for Mother. I will send. That Swami was almost in tears. He's passing away. I feel that it's a great blow to this work. Such was his love for Holy Mother. He was very extraordinary. A very simple sadhu, but deep within he was a very evolved soul, no doubt. So we all had great respect for him and admiration for him. You would talk to anyone. In Belur Math, in the whole Pangat, he would come and salute before everybody. He was, senior, perhaps only President Maharaj, one or two were senior to him. But right in front of all brahmacharis, he would come and he would offer his salutations to everybody. Bhai, have come from New York, like that. He was a very great soul, no doubt. Very rare. You don't find that type of Swamis in large numbers. Because he belonged to that real old order. At the same time, he had done such wonderful work here, what great books he had written and all that. Thank you.
To us, we were listening spellbound, and we're very inspired by the way he transferred the spirit of the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. We have a connection to the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna here in New York because the English version was translated here by Swami Nikhilanandaji and published from New York. Our pranams to Revered Maharaj. We will see of Revered Maharaj now, but don't go away. There will be a session of Ask Swami to follow this, and then do join us for potluck lunch.